Hercules!
Welcome to WatchMojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 films that got their myths wrong.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Number 10, Gods of Egypt.
Is a pet.
They can't withstand their venom. Not as I am now.
Then I guess we should run.
Run?
Mortals do it all the time!
It was bad enough that Caucasian actors were cast to portray Egyptian deities and civilians. However, the inaccuracies didn't end with the casting. Although the original Egyptian myth only has Horus losing one eye, the film makes him lose both of them. Set also goes from being a god with complex motivations to a generic villain for the movie.
Of course you don't understand. How could you? Favored son of a favored son!
And we can't even begin to point out all of the nuances the writers missed about the afterlife.
Things would be different if I could dwell amongst my children in the Garden of the Nile. It is my burden to fight the demon Apophis night after night. Egypt must never be destroyed by chaos. So you see, there are things worse than Set.
While those inaccuracies could have been overlooked, the appearances of the gods can't be. Not only did they incorporate non-Egyptian actors, but the production took radical steps to make the gods appear more human and attractive.
Are you sure you're not a god?
What would I be the god of? Stupidity.
The amount of mistakes Gods of Egypt made could fill the Nile. Number 9, King Arthur. Hey, here's a question. What's the most famous aspect of the Arthurian legend? If you answered Excalibur, you'd be correct. In traditional tellings, Arthur typically pulls the fabled sword from a stone or gets it from the Lady of the Lake. But the film largely deviated from the source material by having the once and future king pull the weapon out of his dad's grave.
Father, please, let loose your sword.
Outside of that gritty rewrite, Arthur didn't meet his doomed father figure, Pelagius, in the original texts. In fact, the mentor wasn't even executed, but rather exiled.
It has always fallen to a few to sacrifice for the good of many. The world isn't a perfect place. But perhaps people like you, Arthur, and me, and them, can make it so.
Cerdic and Kinric also were supposed to survive the film's events.
Father, I have failed.
You've lost the respect of the enemy.
All in all, it's safe to say this film was a very loose retelling of the story. Number 8, Midsommar. How close does Asta's vision get to the real rituals of the summer solstice? Not that close.
It's a dead tree, though. It's dead. Yeah, I know, but it's important to us. I just had to pee. I didn't know it was special.
In reality, the traditional practices are much calmer. For example, a dark romance ritual in the movie involves a woman adding something very personal to her love interest's food.
Let's just stay here. Yeah, a pubic hair.
The actual tradition mainly centers around leaving flowers underneath a pillow, and attendees don't have to worry about any blood rituals or human sacrifices.
As Horga takes, so Horga also gives. Thus, for every new blood sacrificed, we will dedicate one of our own.
According to most historians, midsummer traditions never included such grim traditions. Honestly, spectators should worry more about if they're allergic to the numerous flowers that would be present than actually dying. Number 7, the 1932 and 1999 The Mummy films. Both the 1999 film and original 1932 classic were built on one major misstep: Imhotep's resurrection.
You will not remember what I show you now, and yet I shall awaken memories of love and crime and death.
In ancient Egyptian culture, the process of mummification was a sacred process that ensured a safe trip to the afterlife. So when rewatching either film, you have to wonder why they would do this for Imhotep or Ankh-Sunamun. This duo managed to upset high-ranking officials before they died. As a result, it would be unlikely that they would be specifically mummified in a way that honored them and gave them an opportunity to return at a later time.
Death is only the beginning.
While this fact may be a major letdown to fans of the franchise, they'll at least be happy to know flesh-eating scarabs were never an issue in the texts. Number 6. Beowulf.
I am Ripper, Tearer, Slasher, Gouger. I am the teeth in the darkness, the talons in the night. Mine is strength and lust and power. I am Beowulf!
On one hand, we can definitely appreciate when a film takes artistic license, especially when one of the credited writers is someone the caliber of Neil Gaiman. But there's also something to be said about adhering to source material as well-travelled and established as Beowulf.
Keep a memory of me, not as a king or a hero, but as a man, fallible and flawed.
The story is pretty straightforward. A warrior is tasked to defeat a monster. He becomes a king and is ultimately slain by a dragon. This cinematic iteration, however, mucks up the waters by having a whole lot of human-monster copulation and propagation.
Of me, and I shall weave you riches.
The film also casts Angelina Jolie as Grendel's mother, and she's a far cry from what the poem describes as a swamp thing from hell. Number 5. Hercules. Well-read students of Greek mythology are well aware of their reputation for perversity and bloodshed. This is partially why it's so difficult to adapt them for any less than an adult audience.
That play, that Oedipus thing? Man, I thought I had problems.
While Disney's Hercules is definitely entertaining, it's a particularly watered-down version of the myths that ignore some of the god's biggest flaws. Zeus's flagrant and frequent philandering is absent here.
Oh, he's strong. Like his dad.
Additionally, while Hera seems pretty friendly here, she actually attempts to assassinate Hercules in the source material. You know, because the demigod is actually the son of Zeus's mistress, Alcmene.
Hercules, we're so proud of you.
Mother.
Disney was definitely aware that they had majorly messed with myth. The company warned Athenian audiences about inaccuracies with written materials during screenings of the film. Number 4. Troy. 2004's Troy runs fast and loose with many of the bullet points which were found in Homer's influential Greek poems, the Odyssey and the Iliad.
The gods envy us. They envy us because we're mortal.
One big aspect of Brad Pitt's Achilles that they changed was his relationship to Patroclus. Throughout various works, the duo has been stated to be everything from close friends to lovers, but they were never cousins like they were in Troy.
Put down your spear.
But I'm fighting the Trojans, cousin.
Not today.
Achilles also was respectful of the gods. And during the film, characters like Menelaus, Ajax, and Agamemnon are offed early on in the film. This is despite the fact that they all survive much longer in the Trojan War and beyond.
I thought you wanted peace with Troy.
I should have listened to you.
Peace is for the women and the weak.
It looks like accuracy to the source was the Achilles heel of this movie. Number 3. Hercules. Although casting The Rock as a strong demigod was inspired casting, his muscles couldn't distract us from this adaptation's interpretation of events. Throughout the film, the mystical elements are mostly billed as rumours or exaggerations. This artistic decision drains a lot of the myth from the original story and makes everything a lot grittier. Additionally, the warrior Atalanta is turned into an Amazon instead of a hunter dedicated to the goddess Artemis.
We're family. All we have is each other. We will fight for you, and if it's our time, we will die for you.
To be fair, the legend of Hercules has its own set of inaccuracies to talk about, but the fact that the film still incorporated mystical elements made it feel truer to the source than 2014's Hercules.
Find it in your heart to forgive.
You want forgiveness?
Number 2. Immortals.
Fight for your children! Fight for your future! Fight for your name survive! Fight for immortality!
There are many differences between how immortals present Greek myths and the actual tales. Just as the film utilises junky CGI to hide a lack of character development and storytelling, so too does the script try to cover up how fast and loose they play with myth.
Stop, you cannot enter here, this is sacred ground.
Sacred for who?
While Hyperion and his army are made to be big antagonists, they weren't really part of the original Theseus stories. Their inclusion prevented us from seeing the hero face off against an Amazonian army. Writers also neglect to mention that Hyperion is traditionally a titan. However, that may be because the movie includes 8 more titans than it should.
Forgive me, Father. Forgive me.
I only broke the law to protect the mortal.
If you're looking to cram for a test about Theseus, we wouldn't recommend relying on this movie. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. Clash of the Titans. Both the 2010 Clash of the Titans and its sequel, Wrath of the Titans, took some major creative liberties with their original stories. To rip the band-aid off right away, Liam Neeson's Zeus would never have said,
"Release the Kraken!"
A different creature named Cetus was the big sea beast from the original myth. While Hades is presented as an antagonist here, he's more ambivalent in the original stories.
You are specks of dust beneath our fingernails. Your very breath is a gift from Olympus. You have insulted powers beyond your comprehension.
Perseus ends up romantically linked with the wrong mythological maiden at the end of Clash.
Perseus Argos needs a ruler.
I cannot be a king. I serve you better as a man.
Over in Wrath, the Chimera is killed by the completely wrong hero. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Ultimately, the biggest clash in these films is between the screenplay and the original myths.
Can you forgive me for that?
Why do you ask?
Because I forgive you for this.
Who's your favourite mythological creature? Let us know in the comments.
Yes, a hideous rule!
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.